Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Marijuana Mind Podcast with yours truly, Jay Davis, and my Grease Lightning co-host,
I
Cynthia.
know why you picked that one because our guest today, but I love it. I
This is,
love it.
this is a big episode, though. It's our 100th episode.
Da da
Um,
da
I see
da.
a
Oh, hey.
bedazzled microphone over there, and we have a guest befitting of the 100th episode today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad too because we were really we had three options and we got our favorite. So I'm really excited to do the intro today. You guys, really excited for our 100th episode. I can't believe it's been 100 episodes. We've had people from all different walks of cannabis life, including attorneys, people with MSOs, illegal
Entrepreneurs,
growers,
artists, fugitive.
people that specialize in sexual therapy with cannabis. Remember that one? And people that all types of people. But today is kind of a celebrity. Like I'm kind of nervous because this is a big deal for me. It's like a celebrity day. This was our number one choice for our 100th episode, and we finally got him on. I'm going to tell the story kind of quick and fast, but not out of disrespect. It's going to be because I want to focus on what this gentleman is doing nowadays.
Do
It's
you want
the
to say
tale as old as time. We'll just say that. It's, son of a Virginia tobacco farmer, transplant in his early teen years to South Florida and falls in love with racing, and then funds that obsession with slinging weed. It's just like everybody's story, and then gets life in prison, not really, and saves the world. Father of two, successful race car driver, crowned 1984 IMSA GTP Series champion and Rookie of the Year in 1986, whilst also beating the Andretti speed record in Indy 500 at 209.964 miles per hour. Y'all, we have Randy Lanier joining us today on the Marijuana Mind, and we couldn't be more happy. Thank you for coming, Randy.
Well, hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here, and especially as your 100th show. I'm like the Tommy and the energy that kind of brought us together is how this energy works. And I'm a
I
big
agree.
fan and believer on how things manifest with energy. And so evidently we was meant to be here.
Evidently, we were meant to be here, and I can't be more excited. Justin is a big fan. I'm a big fan. We know that your life has been one of so much excitement. Um, you know, one thing I want people to know is that no matter what you read, no matter if it's a book, if it's Wikipedia, if you listen to a podcast, this gentleman is not and was not a drug dealer in the sense that most are associated with. You were not selling drugs to take pictures with guns and a bunch of cocaine and women. You were addicted to racing, and you had to fund that addiction by making money selling drugs. But is it fair to say that racing was in fact the instigator to all of this, because it's an expensive hobby? And
The racing was the high level reason, one of the reasons, but I also got kind of liking the lifestyle. As you go along and you make a ton of money, and you present yourself to this lifestyle, this fast lifestyle, jet setting from south of France to New York City to Las Vegas to LA or wherever it is. You can kind of get caught up. And I was a young guy, and I got caught up in that. But the racing was my main objective, to facilitate a top-notch racing team through my smuggling of cannabis.
Can you tell me, my biggest question that I've got written down, I've got like 5 pages here, but I'm not going to ask all of them. My number one is, what gives you a bigger rush, running weed or racing cars?
Racing cars.
Really? What's it feel like to go
Yes.
200 miles per hour?
That's what I was.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, driving at Indianapolis 500 is, you're at the pinnacle of achieving greatness by doing what you're doing with the car.
Yeah.
And you have to seriously talk to yourself about whether or not you got balls big enough to keep your foot on the floor or have to lift your foot. And when the car's not set up properly, you talk to yourself, because maybe it's understeering. and you have to lift off the throttle, but yet you don't want to lift off the throttle. But when you get it right and you're really standing on it, it feels so good. So
It's like the car will break before the racer does.
kind of, but the racing is by far the bigger thrill, and that's kind of what kept driving me.
You were
What's
good
a,
at it.
what's a bigger factor in being a top tier race car driver? Is it having the best car? Is it having the balls, or is it the skill of actually being able to stare at that
It's the
200 miles
team.
an hour?
It's a team effort. It's a team, bro. It's the team. Everyone's got to gel and be on the same page and create the best that you got. So every team player is a team. It's not just the driver. It's not just the car, but it's the whole thing, from the crew chiefs to the pits crew to everybody that's involved. And so no one driver is going to carry the whole load.
I mean,
There's
you can say that, but it's just like in a band, it's always the singer that everyone thinks about and talks about and gets
You
so
need
great.
to see him race though,
You're
because
the singer.
when I was watching video, I
Mhm.
was not aware that when you and your partner so what we're talking about right now is Blue Thunder Racing, which is a racing group that Randy himself had funded and started, which is unheard of. He's going against different people in a series that have been well known, well established in racing, and you were the unknown. And you come in there and you have a partner, and you guys actually swapped out the driver. And I've never seen that because I'm used to watching like a NASCAR race where it's one driver just circle. You would actually pull the driver out and hop in his place. And sometimes you would pull him out if it wasn't even your turn.
So that's endurance racing, what you're
Yeah.
speaking about. So when
Yeah.
you're doing 12-hour races, 6-hour races, 24-hour races, it's endurance racing. So you would drive for 3 hours at a stint. So when you see someone back in the day, in the 80s, pulling out a driver and changing drivers, the driver most likely just did a 2 to 3 hour driving stint.
Would you do longer if you thought that you could use your gall and your enthusiasm to actually win the race? Did you feel like you may be the better fit for a longer session?
They have rules where your
Oh,
maximum time that you can be in the car is 3 hours.
okay.
So you're kind of limited to, unless you get a penalty for staying in longer. And I've never seen that. But if I thought that during the race I could win it the last, and it would go over my stint, I probably wouldn't get out of the car.
I don't think you would either.
No.
They'd have to
Two or
pull
three
you.
hours. Does 2 or 3 hours feel like 2 or 3 hours, or is it just go by in the blink of an eye when you're driving?
3 hours in a race car, you feel beat up when you get out. You're keyed up, but yet it settles in on you later, and you really realize the kind of beating that you just took.
But from the perspective of time, because you must be so focused, does it feel like that time just goes by like nothing? Or
Yeah, there's no time when you're one with the car, the car's working really well. The time goes by and it doesn't feel like you've been in a car for that time because it's working well for you. But if the car is not set up properly and you're having issues with it handling, it feels like a long time.
And you were in a Chevy, right? When
I
you
was my Chevy mode. I was in a car made in England called a March GTP, Grand Touring Prototype, and it's a ground effects car made in 1983 and 84. And they were the most exotic sports cars on the planet. And the car's called a March. That's the chassis, and the motor was a Chevrolet.
and you were like your biggest, I guess, adversary would be, besides the race itself, would be the Porsche group, right?
So we were racing against the Porsche factory, which were the number one competitors with us, the Jaguar factory, which was a huge factory team, but we also was racing against the Ford factory. and not to count all the other teams that were getting help from the factories, from the Ford, the Porsche, and the Jaguar factory. So it was very competitive, racing against the factories, but yet we had an unlimited budget due to the weed that I was bringing in, and we could test and do R&D, research and development, just as badass as the factories.
And Ford ended up making you guys an offer, right?
I got asked to join the Ford Trans Am team in 1984 for the 1985 season, but I passed on it. I had a load out on the ocean,
Yeah.
and decided that my priorities were doing what I was doing, and I kind of like being my own boss. So I kept doing what I was doing.
So like we're talking about your racing as if it was happening in one situation, but you had multiple very adrenaline fueled activities going on in your life at one time while you're racing, going 200 miles an hour, running into walls at 214 miles an hour. You're also smuggling in over 165,000 pounds one trip, 150,000 pounds another, millions and millions of dollars worth of cannabis in the ballast of a shipping container, right? In the base. Yeah, he's like, yes. And what about and that while you were racing these important races, you actually had one of your shipping containers have to reroute and take what I think I've measured as the longest cannabis trip in the history of drug running, because it went from Cincinnati to San Francisco. And so I timed it. I did the miles, and I think that's considered the longest cannabis trip in the history of smuggling.
So the barge is a barge. The barge came from Colombia. I brought it up from Colombia with a tugboat. Brought it into New Orleans, but found out I was being watched. So I rerouted it, ran it back down through the Panama Canal and up to San Francisco, which took us 6 more months.
Yep.
Jesus.
That's a long time for weed to be just like floating out at sea, and you're level-headed enough to actually participate in a race. I think that's amazing.
What's bizarre was back then they didn't have the Homeland Security.
Right.
So the FBI and the DEA had been tipped up on me, and they knew the load was coming, but they never let each other know. So the DEA didn't know that the FBI knew, but I knew both of them were watching me. So it was really easy to be able to get away from the tail, the followers that were following me.
Yeah, back in the day, I bet it was pretty easy. But nowadays, I want to know, in your opinion, Randy, why do you think people get caught when in situations like this? Like, you had a couple of close calls, but you still were not arrested. Why do you think, even back in the day, people get themselves caught? What do they do?
They usually get caught because someone says something. They only know what they're told. This is the DEA.
Because people don't keep their damn mouth shut.
Did you
Shut
think
the fuck up?
Yeah, that's right.
You were ever gonna get caught?
What's that?
Did you think that you were gonna get caught ever? Like, did you feel invincible?
I thought I was kind of smart enough to not get caught, and the problem that I see is once you do things over and over and over again, you get such big confidence. And the same thing with driving a car. The more you do it, the more confidence you have. And it's the same thing with smuggling. You design and develop ways to get by. And so getting away with things that you do develops confidence. And so, no, I didn't think I was going to get caught until it started all come unraveling in the 80s, in 1986.
I mean, you got tipped off though that the FBI, the DEA, they're watching you. I mean, did that scare the bejesus out of you? Did you start thinking I'm in trouble at that point?
I think he was more scared about like getting the product in the boat seized by the feds and then having to answer to the Colombians as opposed to, I don't think he was afraid of the federal government. I think you were more afraid of the Colombian guys that would lose all their weed.
Well, the whole situation wasn't a healthy situation. I wanted to get the load completed because I had given my word and wanted to complete the operation. And I'm kind of like, when I get on something, I like to complete it and get it finished and put it to bed. But doing it with the FBI following me was a little difficult, but that happened, but it didn't happen because I ended up going to penitentiary for 3 decades.
Let's talk about that. So you actually eluded police for a while. You went to some really cool places while you were on the run. And Antico, is that right? Antigua?
Well, I had a house and a yacht in Antigua. It's the British West Indies.
And then you
Now
went
they're
to
an
France.
independent island, Antigua.
Did
So
you
it's
go
called
to
the West
France?
Indies. Pardon me?
Were you when you first left to like go on the run, did you go to France and a couple other places first?
The first place I went was to New York City. I had an apartment in New York City. I kind of gathered up some things, some passports and stuff, and headed over to Switzerland and
Okay.
stayed in Switzerland for a little while and shot back to the island where I had a house and a yacht.
And that's where they got you.
Yeah, that's where they captured
When
me.
you were fishing. They caught you fishing.
Yes, I was fishing. Well, actually, I wasn't fishing. I had been fishing for 5 days, but that morning I was going to go get some conch. I wanted a conch salad, raw conch salad for lunch.
Yeah, you know that I hear it all the time. That's how most people end up going to jail is they want a conch salad for lunch and they get scooped up. So they get you, Randy.
You just hear it every day.
I just hear it's just a tales all the time. Like I told you, this is something that I really want to focus on because this is something that just baffles me. Is they've got you, but were you apprehended with any cannabis on your person?
Yeah, that was probably weed on my boat.
Okay,
Sure.
but like you weren't in the process of selling it, distributing
Oh
it.
no.
Okay, so you didn't get caught with weed during a trafficking crime. You didn't get
No.
caught smuggling. You didn't get caught selling it. It was actually your weed. You probably weren't going to sell it. You're going to keep it. Why did you get life in prison if you weren't caught with any drugs?
So they have some statutes on the book, and if you're importing or distributing or selling cannabis and you make $10 million within 12 months or sell 30,000 pounds, it carries a natural death sentence, life with no parole. And that's what I got.
And I want to give the only credit which I will give to the federal government is for providing Randy Lanier with probably the best title that you're ever going to receive in your life. And it is oh my gosh, I just wrote it down. Here it is. Principal Administrator of Continual Criminal Enterprise. So he is the principal administrator of continual criminal enterprise in excess of blank amount of money. So they gave you a really bomb title with the fact that they didn't catch you with any weed whatsoever.
So I have what's called a dry case, ghost dope. Not one seed, not one bud, not one stem, not one flower has ever been in the hands of a federal agent or any undercover agent. So my case and the statute you're talking about is CCE, Continual Criminal Enterprise. They have a CCEA and they have a CCEB. CCEB is the principal administrator of 5 or more people, 2 or more times, grossing $10 million. That's where I fell under. And that's why I got a natural death sentence.
So you go to jail and what's that like? I mean, obviously we know that that's got to be a culture shock and this and that, but you were put in solitary, weren't you?
Not right away. I out of 27 years I served in the penitentiary, I did 7 in what's called the hole, which is also called the SHU, SHU, Special Housing Unit. I did those 7 years for investigations of escape. And I think I had 2 dirty urines, which was only 30 days. So out of the 27 years, I spent 7 years in solitary. My longest stint in solitary was 7 years. I mean, 2 years. Out of the 7 years I spent, my longest one was 2 years.
2 consecutive years.
Yes.
What did you do to get
What
through
do you
that
do
time?
in solitary? 2 years.
So I actually got to like it. It sounds bizarre, but
That is.
One of the greatest things we can do is have moments to ourselves. And when you really love yourself, you're good no matter where you are. And so what did I do? I studied chess. I read books. I work out. I do burpees. I do push-ups. I write. Just, I love to read and I love to play chess. So I studied chess and was able to elevate my chess game and could eventually play the game not looking at a board. So that's just some of the
Did
things.
you ever read the book Papillon?
Read the Papillon twice.
Do you relate to that a lot? Your story has a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I can relate. Yes, I can. It's just I tell you, there's a couple of good books, Papillon and Shanaram. I don't know if you're familiar with Shanaram, but
No.
it's about an Australian maximum security penitentiary guy escapes and goes to India. And
Oh, yes.
yeah, I
Mhm.
think they have a series on TV about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I read
have
50
that, I
Shades
have
of
that sitting
Grey.
on my dresser to read. It's
I
right
read
there.
50 Shades of Grey and the Hunger Games. Does that count?
Okay.
I read my phone and I read about you, but like you guys are talking on a whole different level. I don't know about papillions or
Papillon.
I
Papillon.
always
I'm gonna read it because you read it now, because now I'm curious.
one of the things that I always think about from that book, and I read it, back probably when I was 20 or something, is he would go into basically these meditative states and live these lives, while in that were so real. And I always wonder, is that what I would be able to do that? If I were confined for years at a time, did you ever develop skills like that?
Well, if you're talking about skills, I've watched myself from above. So to get to that spot, it's called grace. When you experience something like that and you're looking at yourself from above yourself, you've been graced. So the greatest things that we can do is all within us and really paying attention to the moments that we're sharing with, whether it's just with ourselves or with others.
It looks like
We,
the
we
time.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
tell you, we all have superpowers.
You
We
think so?
really do. And you might laugh and think about it, but I'm telling you, we have so many superpowers. And I'll give you some example of simple superpowers.
Okay.
Each person on this planet, 7 billion or whatever the count is, one of the simple powers is just simply by having the capability and the capacity to be the observer of your own thoughts and emotions. Now, you can take that superpower and you have another superpower. You can change any situation or circumstances that you're going through, no matter whether it's a hardship, relationship problems, financial problems. We have the power to change what we are experiencing in that situation simply by changing our perspective. Our perspective creates our experience.
You're kind of like a motivational speaker. You make me feel like I can do more things than I can. I'm going to go out there and like rearrange furniture at an expert level and call it a superpower. But like, that's really deep, Randy. Like, I feel like some people don't know certain things about your time and how you were able, because you didn't think you were going to get out of jail. You were sentenced to life, and that's where you would die, essentially. Now, circumstances changed, and due to the commuting the sentences of non-violent cannabis crimes because you were not a violent criminal, because you did not go out and murder people in the process of making money and drugs and stuff. Your sentence was commuted. You were not, I know some people think you were pardoned by Obama, but I don't know if that's exactly true. I thought it was a sentence that was commuted because of nonviolent. Which one is it?
So my release is a little complex. It has a lot to do with forfeiture properties and some of the U.S. Marshals handling of my forfeited properties.
A
One,
casino, maybe?
a casino, yes. So
I know
there was
everything about you. It's
there
really
was some
upsetting.
there was some illegalities going on with the U.S. Marshal Service and the handling of a casino, but it took me 20 years to find out, and it took me another 7 years to go through court system, and so that played a key role. But I also want to say President Obama played a key role because he sent a directive down to the U.S. Justice Department. He wanted to thin out the prisons. It was too populated with prisoners, nonviolent. So he asked the Justice Department to look at the long, lengthy prison sentences of nonviolent prisoners. I fell into that category. So I fell into like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
I came across some stuff that the U.S. Marshals done with some property that they seized that I owned, I built, and found out that they had their hand in the cookie jar. And along with President Obama, it all was a perfect storm for my release. And I was released 2014.
You're like the luckiest, unluckiest guy ever. Kind of. I'm
I
just
am so
saying.
lucky. Look, I am so blessed. And you know, a lot of people say, well, damn, you wasted 27 years in penitentiary. Too bad that. But it's not too bad, because what sounds strange is it was probably what I needed at the time
Yeah.
to get to where I'm at with my understanding and my thinking. And I tell you, not to get on something else, but I come out of prison 27 years later, and the state of New Jersey awarded me a social equity license last March. And now I'm working on a facility in New Jersey in brands that I'll be bringing to the market. And it's this whole ball of cannabis that I'm involved in. I have a nonprofit organization that supports over 200 prisoners, 6 women, and with that combined, they have 160 children. So I'm CEO of freedomgrow.org. I'll put you up there. We're
Yep.
doing a
We'll link it.
holiday fund drive right now for the prisoners and their children. But what's crazy is I got this license, and in the next couple of years, I won't have to be asking these multi-state operators to help contribute to the people that are incarcerated, because everybody that is in the cannabis industry right now, if you're in the legal industry, you're standing on the shoulders of the men that are currently, and the women that are currently still incarcerated. And to me, we owe them a great debt to get this industry where it's at. And I'm blessed to be in it, and I'm in it. I'm all in.
You show, you obviously have a lot of gratitude and you show a lot of grace.
Oh, yeah.
But there has to be some bitterness about, being incarcerated for so long, and then you come out and people are celebrating marijuana, and literally, they're becoming multi millionaires and massive businesses and growing, warehouses with more in that warehouse than you ever commuted is or smuggled. Is what kind of a effect does that have on you to see that?
Look, I'm happy for it. More power to these MSOs and these cannabis states that are bringing about medical legalities and recreation. I call it adult use. So more power to these people that are involved, and I'm really happy for all these companies to do good. But also, on another point, look out for the people that are still incarcerated, because
you got lucky, Randy.
While we're out here smoking weed I smoke weed every day. While we're out here smoking and enjoying life, making money off of this plant. There's people that are struggling, but it's more than people. There's children. There's thousands of single parents raising their children with an incarcerated plant prisoner that shouldn't be there to begin with.
Right.
It's completely wrong. And so the only the bad part, and I'm not resenting these companies that are doing really good, but they should step up and really help these families, especially during the holidays when these families are struggling. Prohibition doesn't work. We all know that from the damn 20s. So step up, help these families reach another level of comfort if you can, let's say, through the holidays. We do back to school fundraising. We do a holiday fund drive, which we're currently doing right now for the Christmas holidays. So
tell us about
that's
that,
it.
because one thing I want to hit on is that there are a lot of people, like you said, that are incarcerated and been disenfranchised with the
Thousands.
prohibition of cannabis. But
Yep.
the social equity programs that have been put in place to help them benefit financially when they are released and be in the industry, they aren't always as fluid as New Jersey. Actually, I think New Jersey is the only one that has a successful social equity program where a person like yourself who was incarcerated can actually benefit from it, because I know multiple states have had such a hard time actually fulfilling their promises of social equity and expungement of records, that they end up embarrassing the entire industry. So
Yeah, with the social equity programs that I see, and this is New Jersey too, is a lot of lip service.
yes.
So to get a license, a social equity license, like myself, I got a cultivation license, but it's not easy to bring it to fruition. For one, they don't give you any financial help.
No.
All right. Two, they don't give you any real estate help. Three, they don't give you no advisory help to connections to how to get yourself further, because you need investors. It takes a ton
But
of money.
if you're an ex-felon and you got you're released, but let's say your record is still present, how are you supposed to go get capital and real estate?
Yeah, very
How?
very difficult.
Catch 22.
It's impossible. It's setting
Very
it up.
hard.
It's making it look like they're doing good lip service, like you said, but
Yes.
actually it's just not fulfilling the promises that we're making. So as people that support the industry and people that support the struggles that others have gone through, we need to not just support the families that are left behind, but we also need to be talking to the people to get these programs implemented and sticking up for them so that they can go out and find capital and real estate. But you got very lucky with New Jersey's program, because I think New York is struggling significantly with theirs. Let's talk about this holiday thing, because the holidays are in the season and this is our 100th episode. And I know Justin's super generous right now. I feel generous. He's got Hanukkah coming up. I've got Christmas. What can we do, and what can our listeners do? Because we have a lot of listeners that are going to be tuning in for this episode for
Thank
Freedom
you.
Grow.
So
what can we do?
Freedom Grow started a holiday drive. You can go to our website, freedomgrow.org.
Okay.
Just visit us. We are always looking for volunteers. And of course, we're all volunteer organization. None of us take a salary. None of us take a payroll at all. Everything we do, we give back to the families and the children and the prisoners. We try to put $50 on 50 prisoners commissary books every month, and that mainly to pay for their phone calls and their emails. We like to keep the bond between the families and the children and the prisoner. The less communication, the easier for the bond to disappear, and they get the family member gets kicked to the curb. So we like to keep the bond. We help with commissary paying for the emails and the phone calls, but we also do a wish program. 7 days a week, any one of them 230 people can contact myself or any of our board members, and we grant wishes. It's called the Wish Program. Whether it's a robe for the mother, a pair of sneakers for the child, or something for the grandmother, we make that happen every day for these. And they're really humble. I got to tell you, they never ask for anything grandiose. And we just started a birthday program. So anyone, every day, every prisoner that their birthday comes on, we send them $25 in a gift card.
So what do you want from our listeners? Is this something where they submit through freedomgrow.org money, or do you want presents, unwrapped presents?
No, we would
do?
love the financial support because we're trying to raise $50 for the 160 children and $50 for the inmate.
Okay.
So last year we had a benefactor, which was a very large MSO, finance our whole holiday drive. We was super blessed, but this year they are in a financial crisis, and so they're not stepping up to the plate. So we're doing this through our organization and through podcasts such as this. So we would appreciate anybody contacting us, and if you want to become a pen pal, we got a pen pal program.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So there's a number of ways you can be of service. And I got to tell you, one of the greatest things that we can do is be of service, uplift someone, even if it's just a smile or handshake or hello, how are you doing? You've already been of service because you've been something positive to somebody else. So look us up, freedomgrow.org, and we could really use some donations now. We want to help these children and these prisoners that are unfairly locked up. We believe that no one should be locked up for this plant.
I think this is a challenge for Kim Rivers.
I was about to say, I know who we were working with before. I know the company. I'm not going to say it because I work with them too, but I also work with 21 other MSOs in just Florida alone and other markets. And I think I can find you a replacement. I think I'm going to challenge myself to find a replacement for the whole thing.
Man,
I want to try.
Would hope so. You can go there. You can pay multiple ways.
What is your goal financially for this season?
What, for $25,000?
Oh, that's not that much.
No. Last year we had a benefactor that really went over and beyond. What we do is, if the benefactor likes, we can take them to a cannabis prisoner's home. We can video with the family so they can promote in their stores what they're doing, helping these citizens and their families that are currently separated from their husband or their father or their brother or their dad. So we can go out into the field and do a video with these families so the MSOs can promote how they helping the communities.
And if they need that, fine. But I think it's also kind of nice just to do it and not look for any.
That's where it should be coming from.
It should be an angel investor, anonymous, $25,000. Here you go. You know what to do with it. I don't need to be, invite. I feel like just putting yourself into that family's experience is almost like taking away from it, because it's so detached. But it's like, I'm going to use this experience for my website. No, I would say you don't get anything except for we'll give you one shout out. I can find you 25 grand. I'm on the case.
Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, they like cannabis. I wonder, $25,000, $50,000 wouldn't be that much for them. I wonder.
I think if every listener that we have donates $1, he could not just meet his goal, and then some. So that I'm going to challenge our listeners for the Christmas and Hanukkah season for Dr. Davis. Whatever you celebrate, whatever you believe in. I will be celebrating Happy Holodisco at this house. Everything disco related, every light that went on clearance because it was an ugly color is on the front of the house. And it's so obnoxious and the neighbors hate me. So I will be celebrating Happy Holodisco and Christmas. And I think if every listener just donated $1 or $2 to this freedomgrow.org, he could hit his goal in a heartbeat. So I'm going to challenge our listeners. I'm going to see if I can find you an angel investor that wants nothing in return, which is going to be difficult, but fun. And Randy, thank you for not just coming on and talking to us, but for giving a shit. After everything you went through, everything that you've done, you have a story that's going to live well past the time that you go. and people are going to look at this because everything you did was extraordinary, you know?
Thank you. I got to tell you, and I told you earlier when I was at the peak of my racing career when I got this natural life sentence. I go into the penitentiary, and it takes me a very long time to change my way of thinking. I say about 18 years. But my last 9 years, I became a volunteer suicide companion. I sat with men for 4 hours a day that had tried to take their life. So, in sitting with these men and speaking with them, playing chess with some of them, getting to know them, my life changed because I really started understanding how our purpose in life changes as we go through our journey. We have many purposes in life, and it continuously changes. But one of the powers that we have, we can be the observer of, wait a minute, this is my purpose right now. And you can follow through with maybe helping you follow this purpose. So my last 9 years being a volunteer suicide companion, I found out that we have many extraordinary superpowers. And that one is being of service to others, uplifting others. So now when I come out of prison, I kind of continue doing this with freedomgrow.org. And we are just growing and growing. Freedom Grow put our own events on this year in 2023 because we were low on funds, and we told the board meeting we had a meeting, and we said, well, we got to do something because we can't keep up with the $50 a month. I go to MSOs, but some of the MSOs may help us, but they freeze the budget. For say they give us $3,000 a month for 2 months, and then they freeze the budget. And these are big MSOs I'm speaking about that's making large sums of money. So anyway, I said, let's just try to do some events. So we did a comedy show and in Boca Raton, Florida. And it was a sellout. That was really successful. I brought in a guy named Jeff Dye. He's a national headliner. Jeff Dye was super good. We had a VIP room with a dab bar and a gravity bong bar, and it was lined up. So our next event, we put on a cannabis golf event here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, and
Wow.
it was very successful. So now we're starting to build a little blueprint, so we don't have to rely maybe on these MSOs. I would love to connect to an MSO or just some cannabis dispensaries. They're all about really wanting to be helpful for a good reason. And that's for uplifting these people that are still incarcerated, but their families and their children that are struggling.
I think it'd be good to approach some of these MSOs because all of them write plans for giving back to the community or opening, in Florida specifically, there was a set of licenses that were awarded where they must open dispensaries in low income areas.
Yes.
Where that looks good on paper, but in practice, it's difficult. So everybody commits to the same document where it says, I'm going to give back to the community. I'm going to help, people that were incarcerated. And so if we hold them to it and say, hey, if you'd like to satisfy this part of your application requirement, here is an opportunity here. It's just connecting the dots. And I think we can help with that. I mean, that's the one thing we can definitely do because Justin, he's got good contacts and we've got direct lines to the top, but anything else that we can do to support you, Randy, we want to do. I want one of your paintings because not many people know, but Randy Lanier is actually a very skilled, amazing painter. I didn't realize it till today. He's got multiple pieces behind him. And you can see it if you watch us on YouTube after Saturday, but you're a very talented painter. Who knew?
Oh, thank you. I don't know so much of the talent. I think it's just practice. And for me, I think it's like this. Everybody used to say, oh, you're so talented driving a race car. But I would say, no, I think it's more developing skills. The more you practice stroking and doing a brush with the painting, you develop certain skills. So with me, I don't know if it's the talent or probably just developing a skill. But
No, it's your superpower.
It's
Everything you do really, really well.
it's a
Like,
thank you.
combination, right? Like you could practice, golfing, all day, every day, and
I play golf.
you could be excellent at golfing, but you're not going to be Tiger Woods.
No.
He has some he was gifted
his
from the
superpower.
day he was born.
Yes.
He was going to be
Yes.
so great at that or something at least.
But if you talk about running drugs, Randy's probably the best at doing it. If you talk about getting caught and sentenced, he's the best at getting life sentences and getting out before you die. You're
So-
the best at driving race cars, out the gate. You're the best at giving back to I just think that everything you do, you put 100% of yourself into it. So that's why you're so freaking good at it. And I bet you're really good at chess and reading.
Thank you. My chess game used to be very at a high level, but I haven't been playing like I used to. But I have been writing a book.
Ooh,
So I wrote a book. It's called
Survival of the Fastest.
Survival of the Fastest. And
Look at
this is
that
what
Tom Selleck mustache.
I've never
Wow.
written. This is my first book, and it became a bestseller in 1 week on Amazon.com.
A lot of people liked the reflective part of it, where you gave an insight to your mental standpoint while you were incarcerated. They said that nobody ever got to see that part. So your book actually gave them a window into you as a person, where everybody else just thought of you as a almost like an entity or a performer. And they gave you a lot of compliments on that book.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping. It looks like I had recently optioned it for a full feature film. So it's coming to the big screen, and I'm like blown away over that.
Who's going to
Who'd you
play
like to play you?
We always ask our guests.
That is up in the air right now, but
Young you with a
really like it.
mustache.
Who
He
would
had
you
a
like to see?
mustache.
Who would you
And it
like
was-
to see from you, young you?
You should see the picture with the handlebar mustache.
I've seen it. Trust me. I facially profiled you. You had a beard. You've had a mustache. Tom Selleck. You had the handlebar. Like, you went through the whole gambit. But this Tom Selleck full mustache, like full, is my favorite. I would say in his younger.
Ryan.
No, it has to be 20s, because that's when most of the stuff happened, is early 20s. So it's gonna have to be a young actor, and I don't know if they can cut it. You're gonna have to play yourself. We'll get you.
I just want to tell you, so if you watch the Need for Weed documentary on Netflix,
I've watched it 4 times.
every part, I'm going to give you a little tip. My son is in it. So every part where it's supposed to be me, it's him.
Oh, the replays of you, like when you're
right. The replays of
Oh,
me is actually
wow.
my son, and he picked me up. I'll tell you a short story. So I do the 27 years, and my son is 7 days old when I get indicted.
Yeah.
My daughter's 7 years old. That's my why right now for freedomgrow.org. So I get out 27 years later, and my son picks me up with my ex-wife, who now is my wife. Again,
Wow.
Did you guys get married? Did you guys
Yes.
remarry? Okay, because
Yes.
Wikipedia needs to update. I was going to ask you if you wanted me to officiate your wedding, because I
Yeah.
can do that.
So he picks me up, and when I went in, my wife was pregnant with twins. Before I went in, it went right in April of 1986. She was pregnant with twins, and I hear my dog barking. So my wife's pregnant with twins. We lose one of the boys. I'm being investigated by the FBI, DEA. We lose one of the boys. My son's born without his brother.
Oh.
I come out 27 years later, and he picks me up and he tells me, "Dad, you got to meet my new girlfriend." I meet her. I get out October the 14th, 2014. On October the 13th, 2015, his girlfriend has twins.
Oh.
So it's like, now we got 8-year-old boys, grandsons.
One thing that I loved about the documentary, I didn't they did state at the beginning and then also at the end that the day that you were going to meet your son was the day that you found out you were wanted and you had to go.
Yes,
And
that's my
so
son.
you did exactly. You did
That's my
everything
son
for
walking
them.
in with the teddy bear.
Yeah.
When you see someone
Yeah.
walking in
On the bar. Yeah.
on the yes, well, that's him. And I was actually going, and he leaves the teddy bear
Yep.
and takes off. That's when I became a fugitive. But that
I
was my
love
son in the
I
Netflix.
love the teddy bear imagery because it says you went to a diner in South Florida, but
Yes,
he walks into that bar and he leaves that teddy bear there, and that was the day you were supposed to meet him. But I want to talk about one of the gifts that you got Brandy, because she's about my age, a little bit older than me, and you got her, much like my parents got me when I was younger, you got her a Volkswagen Bug, right?
yeah,
I got a Corvette, a pink Corvette.
yeah,
So
yeah.
right around the same time that she's driving around in the Bug, I'm in Seattle driving around in the pink Corvette, Barbie Corvette. So I feel like we're kind of kindred spirits around the same age. We both think you're pretty cool. But hers was a white Bug convertible, and mine was a pink
Yes.
Corvette convertible. So I
Yeah.
felt like we had that in common.
All
Last
right. So
last question.
yes.
Is there a Randy Lanier strain of marijuana yet? And
Yeah, so good question. I've been pheno hunting for about 8 months. Got plants coming in. They're in Michigan right now, and there's some brands that's coming out. A couple of brands that I'm bringing to the market.
Blue
So
Thunder.
there'll be a Blue Thunder, yes. There'll
that's
be also an Octane brand, Octane by Randy Lanier, and there'll be another one called Legends by Randy Lanier.
I love Blue Thunder because it plays on the fact that Reagan had started that anti-drug campaign called Blue Lightning, and you named your racing team Blue Thunder. So it was like Blue Thunder, Blue Lightning, your two lives going on at the same time. Did you notice? Was that on purpose?
No.
Isn't that weird how the universe works? I put everything, your whole history in order, and I realized Reagan, Blue Lightning, Perp Walks, Quantifying Ceased Values, and then right after that, 1984, Blue Thunder Racing. So right as Blue Lightning, which would end up being the incarceration process of which you got caught, you started a racing company called Blue Thunder. I think that's amazing, serendipitous, almost.
Yeah, so the question about the strains.
Yeah, I want
yes.
to know, is it going to be more like your Zen experience when, you're living your life in solitude and, very calm and Zen, contemplative, or is it going to be you as the race car driver?
Ooh, Sativa Indica.
So it's funny you say that, because when I drop my brand, I'm dropping a couple of, one is a indica dominant strain, and the other one will be a sativa dominant.
But
I think you got your answer.
one
Justin.
that actually has your name, if Jack Herrera gets a strain, you definitely get a strain.
No, thank you. And that will be the brand Legends by Randy Lanier.
I love it. I will smoke so much Randy Lanier. Thank you again, Randy, for coming on the show. This was a great 100th episode. I'm going to sign off. My name is Cynthia Brewer. Make sure we are going to link freedomgrow.org in the description. It'll be on the video, YouTube. It'll be
right
in the
on.
description on podcast, on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you listen to our show. We will also put it on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Facey Space, whatever. All of the everything will have yours. We put a banner for the 100th episode and your beautiful mug. And then we're going to link all of your stuff right below it. So everybody who listens to the show, there's no excuse not to donate. 25,000 is an easy goal that we can meet very quickly. And these people would be the most appreciative. So
thank you. And on that note, no amount is too small. All right. Yeah. So anything you can do, could help these families, these prisoners, the children, and we would be so much gratitude coming your way. So thank you.
No excuses. No excuses. $1, $2. We have enough listeners to make up your goal. I think we can do it. Let's put us to the test and challenge us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Justin, Cynthia Brewer signing off for the Marijuana Mind, and my wonderful co-host, J-Dog. Go ahead.
Keeping it lean, keeping it green as always.
We will talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.